Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Kris. This is part 2, Fat Electrician, World War II Vets versus Corrupt Cops, Battle of Athens, Tennessee. Before we get started, click there, it helps me out. There's a thanks button, you can click on that, donate to the channel. Your choice helps me out as well. Bare minimum, please. If you like the channel, and if you want to help the channel. That's it. Alright, let's get into it.
Of people standing outside at 9 a.m. waiting to vote. Lines literally wrapping around the block. This is going to be a record-breaking election. And as soon as the polls open, shit hits the fan immediately. The armed thugs are intimidating everybody. They're only letting people in small groups so they have control and intimidation. They're not letting anybody stick around to poll watch to make sure things are being done correctly. They're actively rigging the election and everybody knows it. And then one of the deputies by the name of WWII decides he's not going to let an elderly black gentleman by the name of Tom Gillespie vote. Tom isn't putting up with it. He's put up with enough shit his whole life. He's a black guy in the 1940s in the South. Like, he's seen some shit. He's not putting up with shit from this deputy.
That's good.
So he's like, no, I'm going to vote. It's my right. He goes to do it, and WWII proceeds to assault him with brass knuckles, and the situation devolves to him shooting Tom Gillespie. Now shit has officially hit the fan. Thank God Tom Gillespie survives, but that's not the point. The veterans said that you would be safe if you showed up and exercised your right as a citizen to vote, and these guys have now made the veterans a liar.
Really? We'll fix that.
So the two veteran poll watchers that were there at the waterworks when Tom was shot, Ed Vastel and Charlie Scott, confront the deputies. They end up arresting them and bringing them into the waterworks and tying them up. Other veterans start showing up, demanding that they release the veteran poll watchers. Guns start getting pointed, at which point Ed and Scott decide, you know what? Fuck this, we're gonna free ourselves. They get out of their ropes. Scott throws himself at the glass door, bounces right back off it, hops back up again, throws himself to the glass door again, breaks through, gets all cut up from the glass. Him and Ed run out into the crowd with their hands up, hoping that's enough to not get shot and disappear into the crowd. Now, obviously, Ed and Scott go back to the Otto's tire shop, the GIHQ, and they're hanging out there. So Cantrell sends in two deputies to the tire shop, which is full of fucking World War II veterans, to arrest Scott and Ed.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
The veterans immediately and promptly disarm the deputies, beat the fucking shit out of them, tie them up, and throw them on a burn pile. Sheriff's Department, getting curious, doesn't hear from their deputies for a while, so what do you do when something doesn't work? Double tap, you do it again, right? They send two more deputies out to investigate.
What a stupid son of a bitch.
Promptly disarmed, get the shit kicked out of them, tied up, thrown on the burn pile with the other two. Sheriff's Department doesn't hear from those guys for a while. That's fucking weird. Maybe we should send some more sheriffs out there to investigate.
Double it!
So they send a total of 4 deputies now out to a building full of World War II veterans in 1946. 3 of them get captured, disarmed, get the shit kicked out of them, and thrown on the burn pile, and one of them gets away. Cutting over to Otto Kennedy, he's been out of town all day trying to get the federal government or the state government to intervene to fix this situation. He shows back up to his tire shop, he sees 7 deputies tied up on a burn pile, and he's like, what the fuck is happening? The veterans explain everything, and he's like, nope, I'm fucking out. I didn't see anything. I don't know shit. I'm going home. You guys do whatever. The veterans then walk outside, basically onto Main Street in Athens. There's people all over the place, hundreds of people from McMinn County all around watching these events unfold. And they're just like, hey, who's got a couple of cars we could borrow? And these people are like, you know, they're on the GI's side. So people volunteer to let them take their cars. They then proceed to load these 7 deputies up into these cars, drive them out into the forest, strip them butt-ass naked, tie them to trees, whip them with hickory sticks, and then head back to the tire shop. 7 down, 243 to go.
I'm sorry. Ow! I hate you. You're awful.
And while that was going on at a different polling location, the deputies had arrested 2 veteran poll watchers, Bob Harold and Tom Dooley, because they confronted the deputies for letting people vote that didn't have poll tax receipts and even letting small children vote. They promptly beat up both the veterans and took them to jail. At this point, shit has completely hit the fan. There's journalists there with cameras. The deputies are arresting journalists. They're confiscating cameras. They're destroying film. They are in full cover-up mode to rig this election. From here, the deputies illegally close the polls early. Then they refuse to let anybody examine any of the ballots in the ballot boxes. They come out with a bunch of men with shotguns and high-powered rifles, and they take the ballot boxes into the jail, and they're not going to let anybody watch the count. And at this point, there's There's the aura of failure everywhere. They failed. They're going to go in there. They're going to count. They're going to mess up the count. They're going to rig the count. They're going to rig this election again. The veterans failed after they guaranteed votes would be counted as cast, and there's nothing they can do about it.
They had to end it because there were too many people voting, and I'm sure they knew right off the bat, these people didn't show up for us. They showed up because of the veterans. So they had to cut it short, especially because there were issues with what the veterans were doing, standing up for themselves. So they had to cut it short. But I know that they're not counting the ballots. So do they have inside this jail? Do they have, ready-made ballots? And what do you burn the other ones? Like, I don't know.
So the veterans go back to the tire shop. They go back to HQ and they sit there and they wait. They just have to wait for the count to come out. They know what the results are going to be, but they wait. The townspeople are out on Main Street in Athens. They're waiting too, and it's just quiet. It's ominous. They lost. And then finally, Bob White stands up, the one from earlier, the Marine that fought in Tarawa and Guadalcanal. He's got a Purple Heart from being shot through the hip in combat. He is a jungle warfare instructor in the United States Marine Corps, and he's had enough of this shit. He stands up and delivers an impromptu speech, and I'm paraphrasing, but in essence, he essentially says, you all went overseas for 4 or 5 years of your lives and fought tyranny across an ocean, and now you're all just gonna sit here in silence and live in tyranny in your own home. We're not gonna put up with this shit. Go home, get your guns, and meet back here. The veterans get up, they go home, they come back with their guns. It's not much. They've got some hunting shotguns, hunting rifles, pistols, not nearly enough to confront the 55 armed deputies inside of that jail in a fortified fighting position. At which point Bob decides we're gonna need some more firepower. From here, they get up and they head over to the National Guard Armory. There's one guy from the National Guard there holding down the fort. They show up with guns and they're like, fork over the keys. He's more than happy to do it, gives them the keys. They go in, open up the armory, take a bunch of rifles, Tommy guns, pistols, ammo, everything they want. From here, the accounts vary widely on how many armed veterans were there. Bob White said he had about 60 men under his command, but there's some people saying that there was hundreds. There's even a couple accounts saying that there was as many as 2,000 armed veterans. I think that person was thinking the overall crowd in general, because the whole town is there watching. From here, the deputies go out, they completely surround the jail. The sun's going down, so they shoot out all the street lights so that the deputies aren't going to be able to see where they're at. Then they get keys to all the surrounding buildings, and the people of the town are willingly just giving them the keys because, they're overthrowing the corrupt government. Why wouldn't you help? The veterans are up on top of roofs, they're in windows, they're in all the buildings surrounding this jail. They have the entire thing on lockdown. Now, by this point, the deputies know something's up. Some of them are outside in front of the jail. They're completely surrounded by armed veterans. There's fucking 1,000 civilians watching in the background, at which point one of the veterans chimes in and is like, bring the ballot boxes out. We're going to count them all right here, right now. We're going to see who won this election. To which the deputies respond, you're going to have to come get them.
Come and get them!
At which point the veterans respond, all right. And all you hear is safeties on guns click off as all the deputies hear that. They run and dive for cover, and the veterans open fire on the jail. Some of the deputies get hit. They're hiding behind cars, limping for cover. The rest of the deputies run inside the jail and take cover. They start returning fire. All the civilians are scattering in the background, not really leaving the scene. They're trying to find somewhere safe because they also want to watch this shit unfold, and it's just chaos. From here, a pretty intense firefight ensues, but the jail's basically impenetrable. It's made out of brick. All the veterans are behind covers. Not a lot of people are getting hit, but some people are getting hit by ricochets, birdshot, other things like that. As this firefight unfolds, the townspeople kind of get acclimated to being in a firefight, I guess, and get a little bit more brazen and start watching a little bit closer. Some of them take it upon themselves to go and vandalize all of the cop cars and overturn them. Veterans are flipping cars for more cover. It's just a complete shit show. After a while, the initial firefight dies down and it just kind of devolves into a standoff where they're taking pop shots at each other back and forth. In Inside the jail, Cantrell and Mansfield are shitting their pants. They're on the phone. They're calling up the National Guard. The National Guard's getting ready to mobilize. They call the sheriff of Polk County asking for backup. He promptly responds, "What are you, fucking crazy? No, get out of here. You did this to yourself. I'm not gonna go fight a bunch of World War II veterans. No." So Mansfield calls Otto Kennedy. Kennedy picks up the phone, and Mansfield, still trying to sound tough, is like, "Otto, your boys are down here shooting up the jail. You need to come get them or we're gonna take care of them." To which Otto responds, "All right, go get him." Hangs up.
He just hung up on me mid-sentence.
One of the veterans ends up finding out that the National Guard got called and they're going to mobilize, so he notifies the ringleader, Bob White, and Bob White is like, "All right, first things first, we're going to go cut the phone line to the jail so they can't do that shit again. Also, don't tell anybody else. It's going to take hours for him to get here. I don't need you making everybody scared. Keep that shit under wraps." From here, Bob's kind of like, okay, well, National Guard's going to show up eventually. We should probably hurry this shit up. We should have a couple of hours. Let's go get some gasoline and some glass bottles and make us some Molotov cocktails, see if we can't convince them to leave the jail. So the veterans make Molotov cocktails, throw them at the jail. It's a brick building, not very effective. Fire burns out, not a big deal. At which point, one of the veterans is like, "I work for the county and we got dynamite in the county shed. You want me to go get it?" "Fuck yeah, I do." While they're going to get the dynamite, they go and start rendering aid to some of the deputies that had been shot. I mean, they've been laying there for a couple hours moaning and groaning at this point. One of the veterans actually gives a direct blood transfusion to the deputy, despite the fact that he's, the enemy. It's not really his enemy. He's just doing what he has to do. And I think this is a cool part of the story where it's like, the veterans didn't want to do this. They were driven to do this. They want to cause as little damage as possible, and they're still caring about their enemy.
That soldier seen battle and everything like that, and also understands that in battle there are moments of compassion where instead of shooting someone, you capture them. Instead of bayoneting someone, as you're walking past, you render aid. Like there are moments of compassion because we're not all just Genghis Khan who just goes around and just kills. There are some times when you just know. And again, as bad as these police are and as corrupt as they are, I got to believe that not every single one of them is corrupt. If they were brought in from all these other places, not every single one of them was bad, but they were in there because there was probably ramifications if they turned it down to where some shit could have been brought on them. So they're there doing the bidding of an evil person to stave off something that could have happened to them. It's not right, but it is what it is.
Around the same point in time,
And they also could have been 100% shit guilty cops too. Who knows?
ambulance pulls up to start rendering aid. The veterans are thinking, okay, they've got some, injured people inside the building or whatever. We're going to let them get their injured out because, we're trying to do the right thing. We're good guys. And sure enough, Paul Cantrell and Mansfield take the opportunity to slip inside the ambulance and make a clean getaway, leaving all their henchmen behind. Nobody really realizes that at the time. The ambulance takes off. The dynamite shows up. They then proceed to blow up Mansfield's car. The crowd erupts in cheer. They love this shit. At which point the veterans yell into the jail like, come out or we're gonna start blowing this shit up. They respond with a couple of pop shots. Cool. Band 3 sticks of dynamite together, throw it onto the porch, blow the entire porch off the jail. After the smoke from that settles, the GIs yell in. The next one's coming through the window, at which point the deputies, the boss has already fled. What the fuck am I doing here? They're like, okay, stop shooting. We'll come out. The GIs are like, cool, come out with your hands up. We're all good. The deputies all file out with their hands in the air, begging not to get shot, at which point some of the GIs are like, maybe we should shoot them. And the crowd is like, fucking shoot them. The rest of the GIs are like, no, we're not fucking murdering people. Knock it off. So nobody ends up getting shot. Cantrell and Mansfield are missing. They refuse to tell him where the hell they went. They found out later that he escaped in the ambulance.
God damn it!
Now at this point, you gotta remember, there's 2,000 civilians that have been getting the shit kicked out of them for the past 10 years by these deputies and being extorted, and the crowd kind of, moves in and has their chance to return the favor, which they absolutely do. And Wendy Wise, the man that shot the elderly black gentleman earlier, got a special amount of attention.
The payback's a mother.
Got a special amount of attention.
Wendy Wise did not arouse the friendlier instincts of the crowd when the other deputies were released. He alone was held to answer charges. I'm going to say he probably went into the election day looking like that. You know, just looked like he had had his ass beat. And I say that so that the blame can't be put on anybody in the crowd. No. That's how he looked that morning. I don't know. Maybe he fell in his sleep on his bed.
The payback's a motherfucker, ain't it?
He did end up surviving, and he later said that there was no hard feelings.
Why would I have hard feelings? I'm still picking pieces of your ass out of my boot.
Good one.
So while that's going on, the veterans go inside the jail. They find a metric fuck ton of ballots that were pre-marked for Paul Cantrell. They find the real ballots. They take the real ballots out. They pick trustworthy people. They have them go count them. Then they continue searching the rest of the jail. They go back to where the actual jail cells are. There's 3 veterans in there. They break them out. And then there's 2 other people. One guy that got picked up the night before for being too drunk, and another guy that was in there for burglary, that have apparently just been having the worst time of their fucking lives. They had no idea what was going on the entire time.
Stop blowing holes in my ship!
So now the ballots are getting counted. They take all the deputies back into the jail, throw their asses in jail cells, and wait for the ballots to get counted. The results come in, the real results, and every G is in jail cell.
Deputies who had terrorized McKinn County for a decade find themselves behind bars. Yeah. They look like good old boys. Look at this guy. I can't believe I'm the only one who wore a tie.
And wait for the ballots to get counted. The results come in, the real results, and every GI won in a fucking landslide. From here, the crowd goes fucking nuts. It's a huge celebration. Everybody's happy. They've finally overthrown the corrupt government. The day is saved. After that, settles down a little bit, a lawyer chimes in and is like, okay, we can't fucking talk about any of this shit, by the way.
I don't have a clue what you're talking about, Phil. Not a fucking clue.
At this point, everybody's like, well, yeah, good idea. So not knowing what to do with, the 55 deputies that they had inside of a jail cell, they just kind of like took the ones that were messed up to the hospital, let the rest of them go, get the fuck out of our town. All of them, except for Wendy Wise, they kept him in jail, told him they were going to send him to prison as long as they possibly could. And while this is going on, Mansfield and Cantrell end up convincing the mortician in town to smuggle them out of town inside of a hearse, which is symbolic to say the least. Now at this point, it dawns on everybody, the work's not done yet. The National Guard still might be coming. We got to get ready. The whole town is on their side. Like, they don't want the National Guard coming in here overturning what they deem as a just election. They've all got guns and they're like game to go to war with the National Guard to defend their right to vote. It's fucking crazy. Felix Harold takes off, gets in his Piper Cub plane. He's circling the town, conducting aerial reconnaissance, looking at all the roads into Athens and the county as a whole. And he's like, there's no major formations coming near us at all. There's not a single car on the road right now. I think we're good. The governor had already called off the National Guard, but they don't know that yet. They literally have patrols going around town of armed veterans and armed civilians getting ready to throw down for anybody that wants to overturn this election. And this goes on for days, almost a week. The veterans ended up getting word that a neighboring sheriff's department from a neighboring county was gonna send troops in here to do something about it. They're like, fuck it, let's grab a bunch of guys, load them in some trucks, and we'll just drive to their sheriff's department and ask them what's up. Bunch of armed veterans show up, 50 of them outside of the sheriff's department. It was like, hey, we heard you wanted to do something about our election. And the sheriff is like, nope.
No, that's not what I said.
And the veterans are like, okay, great, cool, wonderful. They head back to Athens peacefully. Everything's going fine. Sure enough, U.S. Marshals show up, the feds, they start asking questions. Nobody in town says a fucking thing.
How come they didn't care to show up or to ask questions when there was actual corruption? But now there's a problem.
About anything.
Oh, no, I ain't seen nothing. I ain't seen nothing. Matter of fact, I'm blind in my left eye. I can't even see you, sir.
The U.S. Marshals don't know what to do. Obviously shit went down here, but nobody's talking. They've got to figure out what the hell happened and what they're going to do about it. And then they get an idea. They're like, hey, they got the guns from somewhere. They had to have gotten all those guns from the National Guard Armory. We're going to go check there. So they show up to the National Guard Armory. Every single gun is there and accounted for. And the National Guard Armory sergeant is like,
I don't know shit about fuck.
At which point the U.S. Marshals are like, okay, these guys will They're fucking thorough. I'll give them that. What about the ammunition? They expend ammunition. We know that you keep a running tally of that shit. Is all the ammunition here? To which the National Guard guy is like, no, actually we don't. You see, that's expendable. We don't really keep track of that shit here. It's, it's very complicated and nuanced. But no, I don't have that information either. Sorry. Anyways, have a nice day. The U.S. Marshals are like, I have no fucking idea what to do. I have nothing to go off. So they just kind of fuck off. And then Judge Sue Hicks orders an investigation into every possible crime committed by everybody. The investigation yields absolutely nothing. He even gets the National Guard to conduct an internal investigation as to whether or not the weapons at the armory were used. And the National Guard is like, nope, definitely not used at all. Ultimately, the governor ends up stepping in and is like, okay, we're done with this. We're moving on. The GIs that won their elected post. Nobody ended up dying. There were no fatalities, just a ton of injuries over this entire thing. We're moving on. The only person that got convicted of anything was Deputy Wendy Wise, who shot Tom Gillespie, and he got sent to prison for 3 years. And now with the new veteran Sheriff Knox, he announced that he was going to be conducting an investigation into all of the other political officials inside the town of Athens and McMinn County to make sure that they won their elections fairly, at which point all 28 remaining public officials in the county and the town of Athens promptly resigned.
You're all fired.
From here, the new sheriff's department immediately restored order to the county, with their first 3 arrests actually being veterans that had broken the law in a true demonstration of, we are not going to be another machine, we're not going to be another corrupt government, we're going to do the right thing. If you do the crime, you're going to do the time. And that's that. In addition to that, they immediately went out and put an end to all the illegal gambling and alcohol rings that had been funding the previous political machine. And that's it. Order had officially been restored to Athens. Everybody lives happily ever after. Hooray. But then word got out to the rest of Tennessee what had happened. And you remember, machine politics are going on all over the state. And as word got out with that, you started to see more veterans organizations mobilizing and doing similar things. There were some altercations, nothing to the scale of the Battle of Athens, because, well, nobody wanted to find out because they knew what would happen. They all watched the Battle of Athens occur. And over the course of the coming years, by the early 1950s, the Crump political machine had effectively been completely dismantled, because now they knew if you fuck around too hard, somebody might make you find out.
Wow. I was told this was good, but yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Justice was served. The one guy only got 3 years. I wonder if you could charge the one guy who shot the one Marine who went out drinking. Like, it was, I think it was in the first part. Shot the guy, killed him because they snuck up to him and just bashed him over the head. I wonder if you could charge that, or if that was already dismissed, so you really couldn't. I don't know. Well, anyways, I'm going to end it here. Hope you enjoyed, and until next time, have a good day, have a good night.